Eastern philosophy. Interesting. This part talking about the self. Western René Descartes. I think before I am. So the Western view about the self is representative of the individual entities in running the thought and action that the Western world. Eastern philosophy, they have Buddhism in here. That it itself is an illusion. Okay, so that a little bit contrast with the Western perspective. All right, Buddhist fundamental tenet is anatta. This means no self. Contrast with notion of the fixed self of René Descartes. All right, they're tracking out or start the writing for the big things. One of my favorite blog because they really have the big thing people in here, not an educator only, but really a scholar, a huge impact. Well, let's see. Sign agree. There is no self. I read this thing already. Kind of complicated, but it's not really difficult to understand. Basically, we understand the concept of Western philosophy. It's a self. You control everything. But the Eastern philosophy, like Buddhism, and so they quoting for different type of the religion too, which is Taoism. Doing have some of those. Advaita Vedanta, the Hinduism also had quite idea of those. They keep blaming on the idea that the self, the ego, or me thing is just a fiction. There's no such a thing. But the Western worlds where the I, the ego, is something go really deep with Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung. So what they do? Well, accidentally, when the modern neuroscientists starting tests, they reveal that the left hemisphere of the brain create a narrative to interpret the reality, leading to a mistaken identification with this self-narrative. So, what the neuroscientists said is, there's nothing as a self sit out the central behind the left hemisphere and right hemisphere of the brain. The brain is just few confused of interpretations, and the left brain just make up some kind of wording and inner voice or the calling something, and we thought that with the self, but it's not. It's just a left brain, which is not really persuasive for the general speaking of the world, because they want to believe in fixed worldview that we have the self. But well, there's the only controversy. And let's see how far it's go with it, but at least we know the other side of the worldview. Wei, Wu Wei. Well, have a wording. The Taoist. Why are you unhappy? Because 99.9% of everything you think and of everything you do is for yourself, and there isn't one. All right. Never heard about this quote before. Not sure the source of this quote, but we still critique a phenomenology in here. That's this. If you give up the idea of the self, so whatever you do for what? Well, a little bit controversy up here, but a worthy thing to read. Mixed up of philosophy, psychology, and religion. Interesting. They have a lot of follow-up writing about the self. The East and the West. Self doesn't exist. Talking to yourself is good for you, even you have no self. Well, that's what you gotta pick up the choice. Do you want to have self, or you don't want to have self? If you don't have self, what you gonna do? That when you have the big worldview, you gotta consider. All right, I'll come back with this. Scientific literature of the worldview. This part is funny part. And they show up the whole study of Harley Fitzpatrick in Oslo. It's really some meta-systematic review about the old terms related to worldview of all studies so far. And she did showing up the transition from the worldview from disconnected with nature to connected with nature that we can see in here. Pretty easy to understand. Okay, so this is the first concept. Why we need worldview? Yeah, what we see, general speaking, is right here, up here. Visible, simple, concrete. newspaper, social media posts, things come to you, informations, news, the word people say, instant events, accident, war, peace, shaking hands, all like that. But underlie of this, they have the invisible, complex abstract of that. For example, when a social media post popping up of the beautiful woman with 1,000 of filters, we don't see the invisible complexity abstract issue of that. Why she got to use a lot of filter, and why she needs to post it, 2 or 3 posts per day about herself, which is not really look like her in the real life because she have the 1,000 different filter on that. What a complexity abstract issue down here. Why do you need to do that? To explain for her behavior, which is invisibility. Instant event, the same thing. Posting the picture is unreal up there. We see the patterns, which is a lot of people do the same thing. We see the similarity, we call patterns in science. And then we go down there, you see why we have a set of different patterns. Why? They do it in Facebook, we do it in Twitter, they do it in Instagram, they do it on TikTok. We see a lot of patterns on different platforms. It's going to the system. So systematically of the social media, leading to people behave with the same patterns, posting, updating something unreal. For what? Okay. And then they go down to the system, that platform will go to structurals. What structurals is the platform of social media. Is that the same structure with a society? And the way that people posting things up there is unreal. It's just like the lavish lifestyle and exaggerating and lying people doing now today in the real world. Is that they have the same patterns, working on the same system in their brain, and working on the same structures, something that I consider. And then we'll deep down the deepest philosophical ideas of things called worldviews, mental model, values, belief, assumption, what happened with their mentality, the value they have of the fake picture they posted in, the belief that that fake picture will bring in them the attention of the group of people. Some had some like button or heart button is representative for the real love, and assumption that it follow up with them to control the behavior. And this is how the layer of the idea and worldview always down here. And then we're showing up the change of the worldview. They do have people try to oversimplify everything. They call them reductionist. Yeah, cut off everything. I don't care. Just simple. Everything you want is money, right? Get the money, you done. I don't care. I'll give you a plan. I'll give you a handwriting note. Yeah, to make it simple, just get you $100 cash. That's it. So that way you distant human in nature. And then we gotta come back from oversimplify a thing into materials, into something more holistic worldview, beyond the sustainability. We try to reconnect the human to the broader web of life, which is other type of life in the form of plants, animals, planet, and the futuristic idea of next generation, as a Blackfoot people think, 7th generation. And then with the reconnected into the holistic worldview, we got to have the diverse understanding of different disciplines and culture. And then we got to zoom out for the shared concept of the differences and zoom in with the differences of us as individuals that we got to acknowledge. So we got to expect to have the worldview can be zoom in and zoom out, flexibility. That you can understand the majority, same concept for all of us, 8 billion people, and also understand the difference between each individual, even that is your parent or your son or your daughter. Okay, I think there's only one map. This is the collective map with 6 domains that she collect ideas from the all literature review. Can go forward, it's hard to see it. Here you go. This is the thing of like APA board style. Well, it's go pretty clear terms that we use in science. The contrast of human nature and nature connectedness, which is a contrasting terminology, which means we disconnected on human in nature, which is this part. Colonial, Western, mechanistic, modernistic, all kind of terms. Individualistic, rationalistic, dominant Western worldview, sorry, Western. Okay, support terminology, which is ecology, indigenous, environmental, holistic, new environmental paradigms, egalitarian, eco-spiritual, and biocentric. These two types of different terms we see collectively in the academic world we use. And this is how we transform from the separate from human and nature into connected. We started working on this ideology, worldview, on this sign. Well, that is scientific, conceptualized ideas. We go from pragmatic, traditional, modernistic, technocentrism, transition into egalitarianism, transformative, which is the thing I normally use, holism, seeing things as a whole, right? Integrative, connect everything, post-secular, which is something higher than the physical world, but I don't like the word secular, but it's related a little bit to religion, which is not really prefer. Integral, inclusive is more about the cultural and subcultural, try to connect everybody culturally. Ecocentrism, which is if from the technology, we focus more on ecology, which is all kind of life form, what we have in Green 5. Okay. All right, we talk a little bit deep about the scholar thing up here and some gaps you do. Okay, this is boring scientific things. Well, all right, this circle might be important. Activating cultural questioning, which is something we try to do in this community education program. Since the beginning, I think it's in the beginning of the course related to the history of philosophy, from Socrates and Plato's and others. We start with questioning the world, questioning the reality. This cultural questioning, kind of same thing. We try to bring up as learning cultures, which is heading by Edgar Schein in organizational development too. Basically, the idea is start questioning that part of culture. First, currently, we're in a cycle of non-reflexive knowledge production, which is we're unaware of our worldview and how they inform knowledge. Okay, you say you have a worldview, but how do you form a worldview? How do you form your worldview? You form a worldview by the realistic reasoning knowledge, philosophy, sociology, psychology, ethnicity, and teleology, or you just forming the knowledge by school and book and what people say and fake news and your assumption. And then we stay in the circle of like understanding other people worldview and the diverse form of knowledge. So we think that we read a lot of English material of science, and we think that we're holding the highest form of knowledge of the Western world, but we go to Eastern philosophy and Eastern culture, we realize that the whole different within what they think up there. And roughly speaking, more than half of the civilization and population live in the Eastern now. But you got to better change your worldview and understand other people's worldview and how they form it. They don't normally form from knowledge, from what I call formalized knowledge based on formalized or publicly system education. They might form by experience. They might form the wisdom. They might form the tradition. The traditional thing of civilization in the Eastern, like Chinese, Indian, or even Vietnam, 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, which is they have a lot of wisdom laid out in the history, and they just try to dig in to understand the greatness of the elders. There might be something you got to think about. That science is not everything. Science and philosophy is just a way of thinking, systematic of knowledge, way the forming some knowledge. But they also have different form of knowledge too. Spiritual knowledge, which is I'm not really a religion people, but they do have people like that. Okay, so we don't want to get out of this circle. We need to jump into this circle, which is the keyword is reflexive, which is first continuous questioning of what define our worldview, and then holistic reframing of our worldview to adapt a new context. So keep questioning of your knowledge, epistemology, and then gather new context and adapt it by the holistic reframing worldview, which is gather more patterns in the worldview and structures to expand it, to understand the complete whole systematic worldview. This is the idea.